Let me tell you a story about how tiny changes can lead to massive gains in our productivity. The national British cycling team is one of the best in the world, but it used to be a constant underperformer on the world stage for many years. In over 100 years, they had never won the Tour de France, and they'd only won a single gold medal at the Olympics since 1908. To address this, they brought in a new head coach called David Brailsford, and by the London 2012 Olympics, they'd won a whole host of gold medals and set 7 new world records. Brailsford was then knighted and hailed as a hero, and when he was asked in interviews what had led to the success of the British team, he would mention a truly remarkable principle that got me obsessed with productivity. In this video, I'll be unpacking Brailsford and the British cycling team's secret, which helped me and will help you become more productive and achieve the things that matter most to you. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rohan and I'm a final medical year student studying at Cambridge University. So why am I making this video? Well, it's partly to address some of the memes that my friends throw at me for making certain content on YouTube. Long-time followers of the channel will know that I am obsessed with things to do to help me be more productive and stay focused when it's time to work. So whether that's cold showers or trying self-hypnosis or staring at a dot on the screen before a work bout, I'm always trying new things and routines to give me a boost when studying. And to be completely vulnerable with you, this comes from a place from understanding my own limits as a student. I've never been a big fan of talent. I know it exists, but it's an overhyped concept. Even where it is present, I certainly don't have much of it. I've always been a lot slower than my peers and I'm constantly playing catch up. Despite this, I've received an academic prize like every year of my career in Cambridge so far. I don't say this to impress you, but to impress upon you that the concept that we're talking about in this video is very powerful. Okay, so I've been building up the suspense for a while, so let's return to Brailsford and what he pioneered in the British cycling team. So Brailsford was famous for a philosophy of the aggregation of marginal gains. And the core principle is that if you take a complicated process like competitive cycling, and if you break down that process into lots of different components, and if you can think of ways to improve each component by a small amount, let's say just 1%. When you then put together all those components for the process, you have made a significant increase in your performance. And this principle of marginal gains is widely attributed to the rapid success that the British cycling team then had in the 2008 Olympics and then in further competitions. So some of the things they did was addressing the aerodynamics of the bike and the kits that they were using. The most extreme thing and the most remarkable thing for me was so apparently in the Tour de France. So the Tour de France is a 21-day competition. Each rider, as they go along the journey, will have to stay in 21 different hotels. And Brailsford explained that that's 21 different sleeping conditions, and that's too much variability, as a poor night's sleep might influence their performance on the next day. So what they used to do apparently was they'd send a team ahead of the cyclists into the hotels that they'd be staying in that night. They'd clear that room and then install instead their personalized mattress and pillows, which was completely adapted to the individual athletes' parameters to make sure that they got a better night's sleep. And I was kind of wishing that I could have a similar team for each hospital placement that I go on. But anyway, the reason why I think this mindset was so effective was because at the competitive level, the margins are so tight. Every small detail makes a huge difference. Because if you think about it, all competitive cyclists at the Olympics, they are elite athletes, they're all highly motivated, they've been training for years, they're all using the most advanced technology, and they've devoted their lives to winning that race. And in a similar way, but maybe to a lesser extent, I felt a similar way when coming to Cambridge. At GCSEs and A-levels, I felt that if I did more work, so long as that work was broadly effective, so mainly doing past papers, then I was going to do well. But here, everyone was coming from the top few percent in their schools. Everyone was just as hardworking and ambitious as me. And as I said before, I just felt I was slower adapting compared to other people. But looking back on it, I think that marginal gains really helped me make small improvements throughout the year. So each time when it came around to exams, I was in the best possible shape to sit them. And in that way, I realized it's not all about just working hard and working smart, but it's about living my life in the best possible way that can provide the best conditions for my mind and brain to be able to operate to produce my best work. So just for a few examples, some of the things I'll do is adapt my desk setup so it's ergonomic, because I'll be spending many hours there. And even when I'm not at my desk, so if I'm working from a library or something, I'll try to recreate the optimum conditions. So one thing you'll sometimes see on my vlogs is I'll stack these books and put my laptop on top and then use an external keyboard and mouse. And even though this might look a bit ridiculous, what I want to do is keep everything at eye level, so I'm not bending down with my neck, which is not good for your posture, and also bending down compared to looking up is not as good for your alertness. And this is all backed up by neuroscientific principles. And other things is I try to prioritize good sleep and eating healthily and regular exercise. exercise. And then one of the more extreme things I did was in third year. So in third year, we had these 5-hour exams to write 3 essays. And I knew that I'd have to get used to concentrating for this length of time. So what I did, I set a 5-hour mock exam for each of my modules that I had exams in. And I used to practice uploading my answers in exactly the same format as they would be in the exam. Even crazily, I'd practice eating lunch because I remember the exam ran from like 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So I knew I had to eat at some point in between because I didn't want to like risk crashing towards the end of the exam. So I'd like practice like what I was doing with my sandwich and like the hydration and stuff. And I could go on, but that's not really the point. The point is kind of I was trying to pay attention to every small detail and not just the work. And the main thing is that it's a philosophy which you can implement for different things that work for you. And some people might think that I'm crazy or I have a lifestyle that is not conducive to fun. And they can think that if they want. But this is the type of stuff I'm genuinely interested in. Like, if you see the type of YouTube videos and podcasts that I'm listening to, I'm always listening to stuff about time management, focus, and productivity, constantly experimenting with different tactics. And for me, it isn't like some sad way of living, but it's honestly exciting when you can see yourself making these small improvements and you're moving towards your full potential. And part of it is because I understand that life is short, so I want to make the most of the time that God has given me here on this earth. That's why I kind of have this like love-hate relationship with exam season, because it's only really during exam season where all the other commitments kind of go to the side and I can really just focus on building like the best routine possible for me to focus, get into the deep work and improve my main art, which is studying medicine. And a few things I wanted to add before we close. First, that the philosophy of marginal gains works best if you combine it with something called incremental theory, which is basically like the growth mindset. And my friend Emil has done a great video on this topic. And it's all about believing that if you put in the hard work and make small improvements, you can move towards a goal. Your kind of ability to improve is not capped in any way. And importantly, it's not about achieving perfection and actually reaching the goal, but it's all about that journey towards the goal and making those small improvements and seeing that feedback, which makes it so much more motivating. It also requires us to actively look out for opportunities to grow and to never be satisfied or just to rest on your laurels or become complacent. Just because you did well previously in an exam does not mean that there isn't scope for improvement or that you're gonna have that same level of performance this time around. Japanese businesses have a word for this and it's called kaizen, which means continuous improvement. And this business strategy is largely attributed to the boom in the Japanese economy after the destruction of World War II. One other thing I'd add is sometimes you can go too far in the other direction and lose the forest and the trees and just constantly be bouncing around and researching different productivity techniques, but lacking the implementation. And the key thing is it's all about the implementation. That's where you're gonna have those small improvements, see the feedback, and then, identify scope for more improvement. And so that's something which you should try to keep yourself accountable to. And that's actually one of the biggest challenges in all this journey. So the main thing to take away is it's all about the progress rather than that arbitrary end goal. That is the name of the game. And this is what I try focus on to help me live healthier so I can study better and do the things that matter to me. And hopefully that's been useful to you. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you found it helpful and explains why I'm obsessed with productivity. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I've got quite a few other videos where I talk about different techniques I use to optimize my well-being and, try to study the best I can for my exams. But anyway, take care and bye for now.